Hello, everybody. Welcome to the United Front. This is your Manchester United match preview against Fiorentina. Our last pre-season until obviously the new season kicks off. So really excited for that. But before we face Arsenal, we obviously have one game of pre-season. That's against Fiorentina. So obviously, as you guys know, the rest of our opponents have been Premier League sides, which is obviously good. Going into the new season. Obviously, 0-0 against Leeds, 2-1 against West Ham, 4-1 against Bournemouth, and now 2-2 against Everton, and now obviously Fiorentina, our different team, a team that's not in the Premier League. And obviously, not only that, De Gea's back at Old Trafford, so that's obviously icing on the cake as well, special as well. So yeah, talking about Fiorentina, so obviously, as I said, De Gea plays for them, but as we can see from the previous games, I believe they faced two Premier League sides. Well, obviously they did face Leicester, but obviously they're relegated, and yeah, so obviously these are the results. So. Why is it going all the way up? Okay, so they played Karase 2-0, which was their first. Actually, it wasn't even their first. It was this. It was their second because they played Grosseto, which was a 3-0 win, and then obviously after that, the level went up, and obviously lost Leicester to 2-0, and obviously 0-0 against Nottingham Forest. So, and they do play a different formation, completely different compared to ours. Obviously, they play 3-5-2. That's what they did against Leicester, and they lost 2-0. Now, I don't know how they play initially, so obviously it is a new team, but we do also know that players like Goodmanson, Moises Keane, I believe he's went back to his pairing of Fagioli, Dodo, Gozens, and there is probably a few players that you probably might know. Amir Richardson and Zaniolo. So there is some players that you could probably say you are familiarized with, but apart from that, in terms of pre-season, I feel like Caresse and Grossoto, teams that most of you guys haven't heard of. You'll probably say it's an easy win, but obviously ever since they face, a level above them in Leicester and Forest, I feel like they've been stronger. So I obviously went with 2-0. I thought, you know what, it could have been 3, but it's the hair and goal. So I thought, 2-0. I did go with the same lineup. I've said it again, Pre-season, I always keep the same lineup. It doesn't really matter unless, it's a league game, and you never know. This could probably be the lineup for against Arsenal. So, but obviously Sesko, obviously apparently he's gonna be unveiled on Saturday. I believe he might be unveiled at Old Trafford. So that's really great to see. But apart from that, apparently Delet might be coming back. Anana and Zirks is still working towards fitness, and Mazraoui, again in the same boat. So, you got players like them that haven't played any pre-season. So obviously, they'd obviously, apart from the others, not have that match sharpness. Don't know what's wrong with my voice. But apart from that, I feel like, 2-0 and MBEUMO scores, Bruno. Match predictions. I think we'll win. I think we also keep a clean sheet. Unless we just decide to, have one of those days where we absolutely play badly in terms of defense. So, but apart from that, I feel like that's the team I would go with, especially, you got Arsenal in a week's time anyway. So you probably start, Amrin will probably start his strongest team, and then not worry about the youth right now, unless it's obviously we're winning comfortably and it's 17 minutes. So I don't mind him putting it on, but the team he's gonna use, especially, I feel like at least most of them um, have to play at least 70 minutes in this game or 60, just so that obviously you get a feeling that how we're gonna go up against Arsenal. As you guys know, this would probably be the team, but obviously you need more minutes, and obviously you just we have to take every preseason um, as a we need to take it seriously, because obviously not only preseason about results and performance, it's about having good momentum, and if we have good momentum, being unbeaten in the summer series, drawing with Leeds, and obviously the result that can go um, against Fiorentina. I mean, it's key, obviously, going up against Arsenal, because obviously, as you guys know, they've lost against Villarreal, and they probably had a couple of draws and lost against Tottenham. So, look, I know people might say, you might win, and then obviously it doesn't replicate what you do in the real season. But, apart from that, it's good to have um, a good preseason, obviously, keeping that momentum up. So, obviously, it's key, and you could probably say it puts an advantage against Arsenal. Not saying that makes us winners. But obviously Arsenal fans know this. Going to Old Trafford is never easy for them. So it's not gonna be easy for us, but it's not gonna be easy for them as well. So obviously it'll be a hectic match when we play them. But Fiorentina, I mean, look, I mean, it's a team that I feel like we expect to beat. I feel like it's not one of those Italian teams where, you know, you feel like they can show their superiority against you. I feel like it's not one of those. Well, no disrespect, but it's not one of those Italian teams where I'd fear against them. You know, because obviously you got your Romas, you got your Juventus, the Milan teams, Napoli, Atalanta. Um, it's probably a Lazio. So but I feel like that for a team like Fiorentina, I feel like they could shock us and get a result. But what I want from this team is, again, like I said, go with the strongest team Amra should go with, which is at least should play till 60th minute, and then obviously put some players that that are bench players that could feature against Arsenal on the bench, and then obviously you play the youth. So that's how I would approach this game. Like, play as if it's like a charity shield, and then obviously, after that you go on to the new season. So that's how I'd approach it. But apart from that, I feel like 2-0 and Bruno goals, and Sesko and Villa, and that's about it. 2-0, obviously Davide homecoming. Um, that's about it. So yeah. Obviously, in terms of transfer news, there was obviously Garnacho news from Fabrizio. Obviously, personal terms are agreed. Wouldn't be surprised, because that's what he's been waiting on. Isn't a huge problem. It's just about Chelsea putting the bid in, and hopefully they can put us. They can give us the bid that that we want. The money that we want. So hopefully they give us. Apart from that, there was goalkeeper. Yes, there was goalkeeper. So apparently United could be getting Donnarumma, but there's also talks like people would have their different preferences, like Emi Martinez or Lemens, or Diego Costa from Porto. Personally, I feel like we should go with Donnarumma now, because I feel like the value is very good. I feel like I wouldn't say it's a steal, but it's a very good value, because look, he's one of the best keepers in the world without a shadow of a doubt, world class. But I've suddenly realized why no club's going for him, because he's on high wages, and look, it's expected. But don't forget, we used to give De Gea, 300K a week. Now at the time, in 2017, 2018, I'd probably say, what, he's actually earned it, because at one point he was one of the best keepers in the world, or probably the best keeper at the time. But obviously, gradually, he obviously, made mistakes, wasn't the same guy, and then people started saying, what, he's not worth that, which kind of makes sense. But then when you got someone like Donnarumma, who everyone knows is world class and can pull off heroic saves, and obviously is a massive upgrade on Onana, I don't see why not. I mean, paying 300K a week, look, I understand, I checked this out. We haven't paid anyone that's over 200K. Which is surprising, because I thought De Ligt would probably cost, his wages would have costed more, but he's on 195. Sesko's apparently going for 160,000. So I thought Cunha was 200K, but apparently that's under. So is MBEUMO. So it's good, but look, when you got a player like Donnarumma, who's world class, and he can. You know what you're going to expect from him. I don't see why not. 300K isn't a bad thing, because he's one of the best keepers, and we even said this ourselves when we paid Onana 50 million. It was kind of a lot for Onana, for a goalkeeper, but at the time we thought, what, he was one of the best keepers, so why not get him? But it didn't turn out to be. But we've seen Donnarumma, we've seen what he can do even before then, with him in Italy, absolute wall. So I mean, I don't see why we can't get him. But 30 million, obviously he's left with 1 year on his contract, so I don't see why not. Look, we could possibly loan, but then I don't see PSG doing that, because again, he's on his last year. So unless we could do a loan and obligation to buy, I probably might see him, paying for him. Look, 30 million euros. I mean, that isn't a bad price, especially knowing what you can get from Donnarumma. So, but I don't see that. I don't see why we can't get him. And look, if you ask me why I'd want, look, it was between Costa, Emi Martinez, and Lemens, and I thought, what, why not get Martinez, because obviously he's Premier League proven, but. He's back. Look, not only is he match brand free, there's been times where he's risky, so it is kind of like, it's kind of a risk to, buy him. He does have some flaws in him, but I'm not saying Donnarumma doesn't. But then again, we've seen him in the Champions League, and we've seen it, for his country. He can step up, and that's what we need. You need a keeper that can step up. And look, I've said this before, when you're an outfield player and who's in goal, you'd always ask yourself, are you happy with him in net? Even United fans will know, Donnarumma in net, you'd legit not relax, but you'd be comfortable than obviously having Onana in goal, because you're afraid that even if a shot went on Onana, you might feel like he might not make a save or butcher it. So, but, I mean, I've said it. I feel like Donnarumma will be a massive upgrade, but no new, no approaches for him, but I feel like we should go for him. So yeah, but apart from that, no, that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. Why do I feel like there's something else? I'm just trying to check. Oh, there is community show. I might do the community show watch along, so tune in for that if I might do it. Apart from that, take care. See you in the next one.